My friends, good day. When you make a career choice, try as much as possible to make a choice that is age-proof. We all know that we have to make choices that stand the test of time. Easier said than done. That means I have to train myself today. I have to prepare myself for a world that will be different tomorrow. It's not easy. There are plenty of people who invest in a skill, they go to university to do something, and by the time they graduate, the world changed quickly. We don't need it now, so they're doing something else. Well, that's not the topic of this video today. I'm really talking about being age-proof. What does that mean? Ideally, do a job where the older you get, the better it is for you. Let me tell you. Let's imagine 2 or 3 scenarios. Consider my African side as we do. You have a little injury, you go to the hospital, and then you have to talk to a professor of medicine. You wait, they let you in, and you're in his office. He's wearing a lab coat and his public hospital badge. He has a good amount of baldness, the white hair that's left. You imagine he must be over 65 years old, right? Is that an issue for him? No, it's not a problem. His baldness, his white hair, this old seasoned professor who's already seen it all. Well, the fact that he has so much experience is kind of a guarantee for you, isn't it? I'm not saying that's necessarily true, but in an intuitive way, let's say, or subjectively, we'll perceive that baldness is a sign of great experience and great competence. Whereas you even enter the office, you can have a doctor who's 31 years old, but those people who are lucky enough to be 30, but you'd think they're 19. Well, you look at them, then you look at him and you say, well, maybe he's too young. Who is this guy? All that, even though he's probably very competent too. But you see, we're in a situation where age makes things better. Same thing, for example, you go see an advisor, a financial advisor, you go see a big banker, you walk into his office in this august institution, you arrive, and there's the guy. Always imagine the professor, but this time take off his lab coat. Put on a tailored suit with a tie, put on a Rolex or a watch from a major Swiss manufacturer, and so on. So what are you going to see there? Same thing, his age helps him. But if you walk into the office and see someone who looks 18, you wonder if he really knows what he's doing. That's just how it is. So, not all professions are the same when it comes to how they handle age. So, let me give you an example. I've talked several times in my life to girls who want to become models. I find this word appalling. I don't even know if it exists in the dictionary. I haven't checked. I don't even know if it's approved by the Académie Française, but in any case, I think it's appalling. Modeling, well, anyway, the problem with modeling is actually the same problem as with high-level sports. Okay, you do this, but how long can you keep modeling? At 17, 22, 23, or 24, you might already be a bit too old, especially by 24 or 25. Girls as young as 17 are coming in, and in a way, you see, they start taking the contracts from you, so you have an extremely short career. It's the same for high-level sports. High-level sports. It wears a man out, it wears a woman out, and then after a certain number of years, people end up selling classes, doing coaching, and so on, with more or less success. You see, these are extremely short careers. So when you have a short career, you have to make it really profitable. But the problem is, how many people who do high-level sports will end up at the Olympic Games, for example? You see, even in some sports, Olympic athletes aren't always paid as much as football players. You see what I mean? So you have to think about the longevity of your career. So let me give you another example, someone close to us. It's true that someone might say, but your examples are a bit twisted. Not everyone is an elite athlete or wants to be a model. You see, so I can talk to you about other things. Look, you want to do, I don't know, maybe marketing. Some jobs have a stronger youth culture than others. At a marketing agency, for example, the boss might be just 34. Then you have a group of 23 and 24-year-old men and women around. Imagine being 55 in there. How could you not feel invisible in a place like that? You get what I mean? Not every profession is resistant to age. Now, I'm going to tell you something. I'm going to tell you something important when you reach a certain age and you get fired from your job. In particular, if you've been stuck in the same job for a very long time, it can be a big problem for you to get back on track. So I'm not here to sell despair. I know someone in my circle. The person spent their 40s, lost their job, and it took them 2 years to find another one. In those 2 years, she held several short-term jobs, some lasting 4 to 6 weeks. But you see, when you stay in a job for a long time and that job doesn't stand the test of time, it's true that there comes a time when, if you lose your job, and anyone can lose their job, you can lose it at 20, just like you can lose it at 63. I mean, there's no limit. I worked with a woman, she was about to retire, she was over 60 years old. A 21-year-old woman from Human Resources called her in one day and fired her. Why? She was told from above, that one costs too much. She was doing an excellent job. Get rid of her and don't hesitate. You see, there's no mercy in the working world. You have to know that. And that's why, just by the way, this has nothing to do with this video, but by the way, I also want you to be as tough as they are. Okay, really, that's very important. Here, it's just us. We're talking. We're not in a job interview. We're not here to flatter or butter anyone up. It's just us. Be tough and defend your interests. I don't want to hear from people who write to me, for example, and tell me they want to leave their employer because they've found a better job somewhere else with better pay and all that. But I feel loyal. I feel a little bad. I have a guilty conscience. Well, I have a problem with your guilty conscience. Okay? Really? I have a big problem with that. That means I not only want you to do it, I not only want you to be able to change jobs by thinking about your interests, your family's interests, your career interests, but I also want you to do it confidently and do it well, without the slightest hesitation, without any ambiguity deep inside you, without any reservation, any mental reservation within. You see, I don't want that kind of thing. I mean, we've been seeing each other for quite a while now. I want to see tough guys in front of me. I really want fighters in front of me, people who are here to fight. And you fight for yourself. You don't necessarily fight for your company. You fight for your company. As long as you've been paid, then you get your salary at the end of the month, then you're with them. But the day you want to leave them, it should be yes, it should be something really, really easy in your mind. Okay, let's continue the story. The issue of losing your job after 50, or even sometimes today, honestly, even after 40 or 45, is a big problem. Well, I'd like to give you an example of a colleague, and I think this colleague really found a very important point. That's why I want to share it with you. Look, he discovered something, which is that he was starting to get past 50 at some point. He's very dynamic in his career. He's very good. He can find work. That's not a problem for him. But he started to realize something. He started to realize that as an employee of a company, well, what happens is that his gray hair makes him, when he's in an environment, in a meeting room, with people sometimes 20 or 30 years younger than him, well, his gray hair, as he said, makes people think he's an old fool. That's what he said. Okay. Or if you want to be nicer, you say people think he's an old dinosaur. So he realized that despite his immense experience, there are greenhorns coming out of school, coming out of places who aren't even close to his level, who don't even know 1% of what he knows, who just buy. They do 2 or 3 certifications. They do 2 or 3 things. They think they've mastered everything, not realizing most of their knowledge is just theory without real-world application. But anyway, moving on, he felt seen and acknowledged in that way. And after a while, he figured he wouldn't have much longevity in companies, and that's what he did. He started his own company, so he started his own company and got into a field related to compliance. You know, in the European Union, let me tell you something. If you're in Europe, if you live in the European Union, if you get into compliance, there will be work for the next 200 years, even with AI and other advancements. Why? Because the European Union is an extremely bureaucratic system with laws, regulations, rules, and stuff that are literally issued every day. And companies have to comply with them, otherwise they get slapped on the wrist. When driving, it's simple. You just stay to your right or left. In some countries, you just have to respect the speed limits and keep your distance from the guy in front of you. And then, well, I was once in Algeria and I wanted to drive. I'm not used to driving there. And I asked someone in my family, I said, well, give me a little rundown, you know, a little briefing. And what did he tell me? He told me, Wear your seatbelt, carry your phone, no forbidden things. Wear your seatbelt, carry your phone, no forbidden things. That means the 3 important rules. It's you drive with your seatbelt on, you don't use your phone while driving, you don't go the wrong way, everything else is allowed. All right, so you see from one place to another, the rules change quite drastically. So let's get back to our story. So I was saying that just as a driver might have 3 things to think about, seatbelt, phone, no wrong way, just as much. When you run in small and medium-sized enterprise or larger company, it's not 3 items. It's 2, 3, or 5,000, depending on your field. And if you're in pharma or you're involved in finance or insurance or very regulated sectors, even the least regulated sector, you could be selling yogurt. The number of laws and regulations you face is already enormous. It's overwhelming. But then if on top of that, you're involved in a slightly more sensitive field, let's say, wow, it becomes a science. You need to have a PhD in regulations just to keep up. That's where he placed himself. He started a company that helps businesses comply with a number of laws. He made an app, created questionnaires, and even got certified. And what did he tell me? Let me tell you. He told me that now when I arrive at a company, when I'm in a job, my gray hair doesn't make me the old dinosaur. It makes me the professor, the experienced guy. When I speak, they stay quiet. You see, it's not the same thing. If he had been their colleague, they would have seen him as an old dinosaur. Maybe they wouldn't have listened to him. Now that he's a consultant, we warned them 15 days earlier that he's coming, that he costs a lot, that he'll only stay with them for 2 days, that they need to take advantage of his presence, benefit from his experience, prepare your questions, listen to him, he'll be supporting us, and so on. There's an aura that precedes him, and this time the fact that he's approaching 60 is no longer a problem. In fact, it's actually a good thing. You see, that's it. He managed to transform his work. He started from a job that wasn't really his, that began with his own sensibility, because everyone sees their own demons, sees what's at their own doorstep through their own sensibility. His age was now a handicap, not an asset. Well, suddenly there, as a consultant, he was paid more, and his age had become an advantage. So, you see, you have to find a way to turn the situation to your advantage. But to finish this video, I'd like to tell you that you're always a boss. You're a boss even when you're an employee. You're running a small and medium-sized enterprise, a small business. You're in it, your career is in it. Imagine a small business owner who comes in the morning, goes to work, and then goes home afterwards. He has no idea about the market, no idea about the major trends. He doesn't know what the competition is doing. He doesn't know the consumer's habits. He has no long-term vision, no strategy. He just goes with the flow. What will happen to his company? We all know that his company will end up going under. He needs a vision. Well, when you're in a career, you need to have a vision too. You have to imagine that you're the boss of a company. You're the boss of a small business. And this small business, what does it manage? It manages the career of one person. That person is you. You're not just going to go to the office in the morning, work, go home, work, and go home. I mean, if you don't have a vision, you're not following the market. And you end up spending 18 years in the same job. I can tell you, if they fire you at 54, that's one of the toughest situations. Honestly, I've helped people in those situations, but my point is, avoid putting yourself in that position and learn to do so early. You don't just say you found this video on YouTube. I'm 27 and don't care. It's not too far away. Why? Because these aren't decisions that you're going to make. When you get the door slammed in your face, that's when it's harder. Of course, when you get the door slammed in your face unexpectedly, you'll land on your feet and we'll help with advice. It'll be harder, but there's no problem. Whereas if very early in your career, if at 18, before spending 18 years in a company, all right, if at 35 you tell yourself you're not going to stay in this company until you're 55, and you work for that, you manage your career, everything you do is intentional. You're not just someone being pushed around by circumstances. At that point, you're in control of your life, your professional life, so your financial life. You see things differently. If you just let yourself drift, eventually the 21-year-old guy will call you in and happily kick you out. And he doesn't care, you know what I mean, right? So that's what I'm trying to establish with this video. Be age-proof. Choose an age-proof career. It changes everything if age ever becomes a handicap, you see. And also, last point, really prepare yourself. Take control of your career from the very beginning, literally since you're 20 years old, since your first job. That's it. And this applies to everyone, whether you're in marketing, in medicine, or you're a street paver. It applies to you. It applies to everyone. Don't just go at random drifting along, hoping that somehow things will work out on their own. There you go, my friends. Thank you for watching this video. I hope it was useful for you. Let me remind you that my book Toxic, which is a big success on Amazon, especially thanks to the viewers of this channel who found it very interesting, is now available in audiobook format. Now you can listen to it instead of reading, whether before sleeping or while driving. Thank you, my friends, for sticking with me until now, and I'll see you in the next video.